Hey everyone, this is StarcraftDad, and today I'll be casting my first game as a Silver League player in the Blizzard Online ladder. Today's game will be a rematch of sorts, as once again I am playing Terran vs Zerg on the map Shakuras Plateau. You can see, just like the last game, I'm in the upper left-hand corner. Unlike the last game, my opponent is not in the close-by air position, but he is in the cross position, which is in the lower right-hand corner. In the in-game chatter, we're talking about what league we're in and macroing it up, building drones over here on the Zerg side, and myself building SCVs. And myself also getting distracted from building my first supply depot as I'm typing with him. My opponent Ghost is a bronze player, and similar to my previous opponent, he is ranked at the top of his division. But unlike my previous opponent, who had, I believe, many hundreds of games in this season, I think, Ghost is a brand new player who has only been playing for, I think, a couple of days. But he's actually pretty good, as we'll come to see. Like last time, once again, I'm going for my strategy of building two barracks as a wall, sending out this scouting SCV to see where my opponent is and what he's up to. As last time, my opponent went for a roach rush, and I was somewhat prepared for it, but basically fell down to the pressure once he got into my base. So it looks like Ghost is going for a gas at 14 and a spawning pool, which is almost done. So we could be looking at some early Zerglings. I've come down here and scouted down my close by ground position and find him not there. The SCV and drone are gonna pass right by each other. Oh, there's his scouting drone, and my SCV runs by the Zelnaga. And I've already got my wall started up and building my first marine. And building my refinery. So at this point, from my previous game, I was supply blocked several times, and I also built an early command center, which ended up being a problem when my opponent came to my base with a bunch of roaches. So I've scouted this upper right hand corner and found that Ghost is not there, and you can see here I am supply blocked. 1919, look at that already. And I'm falling behind here. I have plenty of minerals, not doing anything with those. Looks like I'm managing this marine here. Okay, there we go, building a supply depot. So now that I'm supply blocked, it would behoove me to go ahead and start using some of these minerals to build things. My opponent, on the other hand, looks like he's starting a roach warren, so we could be seeing a repeat of my qualifying game, where my opponent built a bunch of roaches right down the front door. I've got a couple of marines here guarding the Zelnaga tower on the bottom, and you can see that having possession of these two towers, which gives me visibility over the middle of the map, will come in very handy. Bringing out a marine over here, so I'm going to take him out and see whether there's an early expansion. It's pretty common for Zergs, even at the top bronze, and I'm assuming down into silver and up layers, to build an expansion here pretty quickly. It helps Zerg to have at least one more expansion than a Terran player. And here comes his roach to deny me some vision of what's going on here. So you can see he's already starting to send roaches one by one over to my base. And this is where these two Zelnaga towers are going to come in very handy. If we switch to my vision here, you'll be able to see that I can see these roaches coming through this middle passageway. These bushes hide my units from being seen, my units down here, so these roaches can't see me. If you look at his vision, he can't see that I have these two towers. But I was able to see a stream of blue coming across the field. Now at this point I don't have anything to really fight off these roaches. I've just got a couple of marines, which, as we know from last game, are pretty weak against roaches. But I've built my third barracks with a tech lab, so I've got a couple of marauders on the way, and I'm not supply blocked anymore. Hooray for that. So at this point I'm concentrating mainly on building up guys, as I'm suspecting there's going to be a roach bust here. He's got 4, 5, and a group of 3 here. So that was about the number that the previous guy tried to break through my ramp with, and I've got a pretty sizable force here. Now adding in this Marauder to hold this off. Now I've gone ahead and built an engineering bay. My idea here was to go ahead and build some upgrades this time, and I've started my second gas as I'm noticing that I'm needing more gas for upgrades, and since I'm building Marauders constantly, I'll be using up gas, as Marauders cost 100 minerals and 25 gas, as you can see there. I'm also going to try to stay on top of building supply depots, as these Marauders and Marines will be using up a lot of supply as I'm pumping out 3 at a time. So I've got a pretty good group here now to defend, and he's got a sizable force, and you can see that he's now sending several waves of roaches, which I'm all catching from this Xilnaga tower. You can see that I'm just watching the stream of blue one at a time come across. Now at this point I'm going to go ahead and set these guys up here at the top of this ramp and form a concave. That's what they call a concave. The idea is that you set up your units in a semicircle, and as the opponent streams in their units in the middle, you're going to have greater coverage from your guys. So let's select my guys and see how they're doing. So as you can see with these dotted lines, you can see which units that we've selected. So both of us are pretty focused on this fight. I am singling out individual roaches to kill, and you see it's doing a pretty good job. I've cleaned up most of them. These are pretty damaged here. We'll go ahead and turn on the points so we can see what's going on. But I'm starting to run out of guys too, and as we know from the last game, roaches are pretty strong against Marines, which most of my force is Marines. And I'll shoot the right one. There we go. So pretty soon here, it's not going to be looking too good. If we go to the, you can see in the upper left hand side he's building 7 roaches at a time, and I am now down to 1 Marauder, 3 Marines, and he has 5 roaches on the field, and as we saw from the production tab, he's got several more on the way. I run my Marines down, quickly run them up, and voila, I am learning this game, backing up behind a raid supply depot. At this point, my forces are at a slight advantage as they have a slightly longer range than the roach. And I'm realizing this about now. I back my guys off. So roach is attacking a building. You can see he did the same thing too. When he was close to the buildings, I could shoot him from a farther distance and he couldn't hit my guys. But he backed off as well. So we can see that both of us have not been macroing up to our max capability, as we have a lot of minerals and a lot of gas left over. On my side, I'm only building things out of these 3 barracks. And he's got a group in, and they've broken through, so now this is starting to look like the last game, which is not good for me. But thankfully, in my last game, I had some time to think about, since my last game, I had some time to think about what I would do in this exact scenario. I've got a bunch of roaches inside the base, I've got a second command center, and I'm building guys off of 3 barracks. Surprise, surprise. So as you can see here, I'm researching an upgrade, which I had started, I think, before the battle. And had I looked at my Xilnaga towers, I would have seen another group of roaches coming in. So my idea from the last game was to take this command center and try to wall off down here. And you can see that his little 4 roaches are getting distracted, trying to attack these buildings and attacking my guys who are coming out. And I actually had an SCV, look at that brave SCV, repairing the supply depot as he's trying to kill it. So here you go, you can see me trying to place this command center in a blocking position. What I didn't realize was there's actually a space between here for guys to get through. I'm not sure. Now that's me trying to put a mule on this command center and accidentally hitting the wrong key and doing a scan instead. I'll be dropping a mule shortly over here to repair. As you can see, this command center is going up pretty quickly, but I'm converting it into I'm morphing it over into a planetary fortress, which will be able to attack these roaches. So you can see I'm rushing SCVs down to try to repair this guy. There was a little battle up here too. I brought some SCVs down to attack the roaches on the inside. So the inside of my base is clear. I've got a bunch of SCVs trying to repair this planetary fortress, and you can see they're repairing very quickly. And this planetary fortress combined with this marauder are cleaning up the roaches pretty well. Now as you can see up here, my opponent is macroing up again, building a bunch of roaches, but both of us got pretty far behind. It looks like him more than me, but he's ahead on the supply count. Let's take a look at the army tab and see how our workers are doing. He's ahead on workers 3, 23 to my 20, and he's up ahead on army supply, which will quickly dwindle as his roaches try to break in through this front door and discover that this planetary fortress has a pretty good range. Going to the units killed, we can see that he's killed 55 units and I've only killed 45, and he's killed some workers, which will be a trend for a while. As you can see once again, and again, you can see the importance of these towers, as I can clearly see on the mini-map the stream of blue that's coming in, which shows me that he is still on the move, on the attack, which when playing against Zerg is good for me, because this says that he's probably not, I should have had this guy do something instead of just standing there, as that means that Zerg is not macroing up, which is important to see. If we switch to my vision, you can see that I can see these guys streaming across. Now what's interesting here is that I was under the assumption that since he's making so many roaches, I didn't realize he had so many minerals and whatnot backed up, that he was obviously not building a second base, which was encouraging to me. And you can see here he's building up a pretty good set, another good set of roaches. Somewhere in here I do a scan, and maybe that's... let's switch back to my view and see what I can see. Somewhere around here I do a scan to see what else he's up to. My previous opponent, after he sent in his roaches and was in my base, actually, he was already building a spire to build air units. And somewhere in here I do a scan to see this, but another group of roaches trying to attack the front. But with this planetary fortress and a bunch of guys and these two barracks, I'm pretty strong here up on the front for a roach attack. But what I didn't realize is that my opponent had already started to build a second base over here closer to mine. Now this serves as a couple advantages. One, you're going to see that I'm expecting him to expand here, and so it has an advantage of surprise for him. On the other hand, as a second positive, this also gives him a second place to produce units. Zerg can only build units at their hatcheries. So as long as he's on one base, I know that he can only build 4 to 7 units at a time, and so he has to make decisions as to whether he's going to build attacking units or build economy units. And as you can see up in the unit counties, the production tab, he's building a bunch of Hydralisks and a bunch of roaches, and now a queen for this second base. So we can see the roaches starting to gather up, and this short flock of Mutalisks coming in, making sure that I don't have vision of what's going on. But if we switch to my cam, my vision, you can see that I've done a scan here, and oh, that was, I guess, a while ago. Looks like I haven't done that yet. But I lost vision down there on the lower tower, and I'm suspecting that he's going to go for Mutalisks. So I already had an engineering bay built, so I went ahead and built some missile turrets here, expecting the Mutalisks to go for harass. And you can see I've started to tech up. I'm building a factory and up to a starport. Now my Marines and Marauders can use the stim pack upgrade, which I upgraded. I think that was the first thing I upgraded over here in the tech lab. They can use that stim pack upgrade to fire at a faster rate at a cost of some life. But that's why I started building medevacs, is these medevacs can heal my units from that stim pack hit, and Marines are very effective against Mutalisks. Mutalisks are pretty effective as they're fast, and they can do a lot of damage to grouped up units and units that can only attack ground, such as my Marauders and my planetary fortress. This fortress can only attack ground units, so I think that's probably why he went for that mixture. Now here I am setting out a Marauder to test the waters, because at this point I know that he's down here. I just don't know what he has. So I'm going to send him down a little bit more. I'm feeling pretty confident that I can defend anything that he sends at me. I'm just trying to goad him out here. I want him attacking and not macroing up. As you see, he's on a second base. Ooh, and look at that. He's not building anything. So he's pretty focused on this attacking force. And here we can see them coming in. Here's his roaches bringing them in first. I personally would have brought in the Mutalisk here to start banging down on this planetary. He's kind of went ahead for both. So now I've had my Marines ready to go. So they run around here. And you can see them stimming in, running in. And they're just going to make short work of all these Mutalisks. They can pretty much kill them on a one kill pretty easily. So the Mutalisks just evaporate. The roaches were killed off by the planetary. It's pretty damaged here. So now at this point I've killed a bunch of his units. I'm expecting now is a safe time to move out, which is good because if you look up here, you can see that I'm down to one mineral patch and all of my SCVs are on that one, which is very ineffective. The maximum capacity for mining off one mineral patch is 3 SCVs. So I was actually looking for an opportunity to expand as I was basically running out of money. You can see that I'm down to basically no minerals here, and that's a huge problem. So in a way I was very thankful that he came to attack me, as I'm suspecting that that's putting him on the back foot. At least he's going to have to wait a little while to produce units. Now of course at this point I was under the impression that he was still on one base. As you can see from my vision, I can only see one base and I can still see a stream of units coming in. Now Hydralisk. So he's moving up his tech tree as well. But I didn't realize that he had this second base, and I also didn't realize that he wasn't building any units. So that's a problem on his part, but you know, he's new to the game, so that's expected. So that was pretty exciting. Had a base break in and was able to hold it off with my new kind of backup strategy of using that command center as a defense. I didn't intend to make it a planetary fortress, but that turned out to be a very helpful strategy. And at this point, I'm going to start macroing up. You see my minerals starting to pour in, and I'll be basically building units out of these barracks and this factory and this starport. So this game has hit the 24-minute mark, and we are getting probably near the end of my time limit for how long I can do a YouTube movie, and I've wanted to keep these videos short and not too long. So let's go ahead and speed up the clock here, take advantage of our replay abilities. So you can see I'm going ahead and upgrading, trying to keep my units upgraded and trying to build things while I'm constantly in the background, trying to work on my macro skills, building a bunch of missile turrets, expecting maybe some Mutalisk harass. So at this point you can see from my vision I did a scan down here to see if he had a base there, and I'm starting to send out these Marines to see where his bases are. So I've sent one down here into this expansion base here, and one over to the other side here. So my Marine dies to a bunch of Hydralisks, and voila, I see a base here. So I'm thinking that this is his first expansion. I don't realize he's actually got a second one already here mining away. So scared off a couple of drones, killed my guy. So now I know that there's a base there. So I start considering that, and you can see I've built 2 more refineries, so starting to do gas off of 4 different refineries. So it came in handy that I had a command center here, and I'm going to go ahead and send up a drop. So I'm trying to keep Zerg back on one base. Of course, if I'd been really thinking about this, he must be on one base because he's still making guys. And I sent a Marine over to this location to actually I'm not even sure why I sent him out there, but regardless, he sent his bunch of Hydralisks up there to hit my Marine, which is interesting because Hydralisks off of the Zerg creep, that's this goopy stuff around the Zerg base, are pretty slow. And so I thought it was also interesting, he was breaking down these rocks. I wasn't quite sure why he was doing that. Maybe he thought that maybe he thought that I had a base up here. But I'm going to go ahead and bring down this drop here on the right-hand side. He's basically got nothing here, and I knew that his Hydralisks were up here in the upper left-hand corner, so I just brought in these Marines to cause as much damage as possible, killing drones, and trying to kill this hatchery before his Hydralisks come over. And you can see I'm not macroing at this time, which, you know, that's just, oh, there we go, I'm starting to build stuff, so I'm trying to macro and micro with these units at the same time. So let's go ahead and speed up the clock. So I'm going to bring them out. No need to have them die to a bunch of Hydralisks. And they're just going to hang out here on the right-hand side. And with my vision, I can see from the Zelnaga Tower that there's a bunch of Hydralisks here where they are. For some reason, they don't attack this guy, so I've got full vision of where his mass of groups is. And at this point, I also sent a guy up here. I was sending her down the other side, and I discovered this from that queen. So I went ahead and dropped down the siege tanks to cause some damage. That ends up drawing the Hydralisks over here when the medevac takes off before they can come and kill it. But that means that his Hydralisks are over on the left-hand side, which gives me opportunity to come in on the right-hand side with this drop down here. I'm going to stim these guys up and bring them in. And as I bring them in, I'll be able to see that he's out of gas here, and he's just building a bunch of stuff here, but my main target is the Hydralisk den. It sure seems that Zergs will tend to build only one copy of each tech building, which leaves them vulnerable. I don't know why they build more, just in case I come in like this. But scared off the units, killed them off, and these guys are going to clean up here. At this point, I'm looking at endgame. I'm thinking he's down to nothing. Or just one base over here. My side, if you look at my vision, I can see that he's got one base here, cleaning up this base, so now he's down to one hatchery. He's only going to be able to build 7 units at a time. And whoa, okay, going a little too fast here. Let's rewind this a little bit. So at this point, I'm thinking I'm pretty safe. And I bring down this big old army with a ton of medevacs, a bunch of Marines and Marauders. So at this point I basically A-moved, and so these guys streamed out in a line, which turned out to be very convenient, as they formed a nice little concave here, which puts me at an advantage as I had far more guys than needed. And you can see that these medevacs are healing the Marines and Marauders as they're getting damaged, which is pretty powerful. And as we speed back the clock up, I come up here to finish off this base, and my opponent leaves the game, and I achieve my 100th league game and win my first game in the second season of the Blizzard Ladder. So I hope this was an enjoyable game. It was a pretty fun game for me, pretty intense there when I had almost a repeat of last time, but was very happy to learn from my previous game and come out with the win this time. That'll be it from StarcraftDad, so we'll talk to you guys next time.